Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk a little bit about a new notebook that I got from Dominant Industries. I don't know if this is in relationship to the actual ink, Dominant Industry, but my guess is probably it is. And this new notebook is specifically made for fountain pens and fountain pen ink for its usage. It is designed by paper mill, the Takasago paper mill. It's about you can kind of read it there too. You know, it says high quality paper for more than 110 years since July of 1910. And this particular one was developed in 2020. And I'm going to kind of look it over, test it out, and try it out with a couple of their inks and then a couple of non-dominant industry inks and see how it basically stacks up, and also compare it to the tried and true Tomoe River paper as well, just to see how those stack up against the gold standard, if you will, in regards to ink. So we'll kind of look at both of them, but really quickly, a review of the notebook. It's a standard A5 size. You've got the little paper sleeve slash banner around it, giving us a little bit of information about it. To pursue writing paper suitable for fountain pens with a silky smooth surface for smoothness and enhanced ink shading, accurate color and brightness, and quick dry time. So we'll kind of take a look at all that. There's not a whole lot on this outside of the band around it. Very, very light here. You can see the company name on there, and it says Takasago, and then I can't read what it says underneath, but that's where it is. And then on the far top right corner, it says made for fountain pens. So that's really the only marking in here. The paper does have a little envelope on the inside, so you can kind of, maybe store something there if you want to. And this is just heavier card stock, I should say, paper, nicely folded. I did get the grid pattern onto here, but they do have non-grid pattern as well too, if you wanted it. And they come in different colors. The black here that you get is the grid standard. There's a white version of this as well that's just a blank note, and then there's a gray version of it that just has the line itself onto there. So there's some variations depending on what you want to kind of get and what you want to kind of have on it, but it's kind of nice to give you some choices into there. I just a sucker for black and went with the grid pattern onto here. The paper does, it's got the nice innards, but the paper itself does feel, nice and smooth. Not as, in my opinion, right here, as smooth as the Tomoe River paper that I have here from the Galen Leather Everyday Notebook, and that's 52 GSM. And I believe this one was A5 86 sheets, grid note, 5mm, and looks like 87.9 GM. So a little bit, different into that in regards to paper, in regards to what it is, but it's an 86 sheet notebook paper, 87.9 GSM on the scale if you want to look at it. So not a true comparison between this and maybe the Galen Leather, but 52 is pretty standard across the board into that. And what I want to do is, like I said, just kind of talk about it. It's just an A5. Now, the website says it does lay flat, but it does not. You kind of have to give it a little bit of pressure onto it. So just by default, it doesn't lay flat on its own, but you've got to give it a little bit of oomph. And you can see here just the stitching itself. It's got a little bit of a gap, but not the end of the world into that. The binding, several notes into there. Looks like it's glued, and then you can see all the various different leaves inside there as well. Again, like I said, it doesn't superbly lay flat, like you would see typically, like the spine would have a little bit more even bend across depending on what you're doing. So even if you're going into, you know, let's say the center a little bit. Oops, had a little accident there. Stuff's falling off the desk. You don't get the nice, you know, lay down flat break as you can see here within it. So it does. I'll give it. It does lay flat, but you know, it's not 100% lay flat. I think you got to give it a little bit of oomph, and I think normal everyday usage will probably get you there. Especially when you're towards the middle. In the early ones, you're going to have to deal with the flap as you're writing, and then if you're planning to use front and back, that you know, will get a little difficult as well too. So nice white paper, and you know, kind of compared to the Tomoe River, this one's obviously a little bit brighter than this, so we'll have to see what that looks like from an ink perspective. And just to be fair, I'm gonna, you know, lay down here and lay down onto the Tomoe River and kind of do a comparison at the end to see how they look at it. And I've got, you know, there's the Dominant Industry Standard ink. I've got 2 Pearl Series inks that I can test it out. And then, of course, I've got some of the newer Ferris Wheel Press Tears of Sapphire and Lapis Lullaby. That's got some sheen and some shimmer and some low shading. So we'll see how those stack up against the Tomoe River and the new Dominant Industry Takasago Fountain Notebook that's supposedly made for fountain pens and fountain pen inks. Okay, so while I get a little organized here, we'll just put these side by side, if you will, and we'll give them a little bit of sample. So we'll start with the standard, and this is a dominant blue. So just a standard blue. Give it a little shake. There's no shimmer or anything, but I always like to give it a little shake because these tend to have been sitting for a little while. Ooh, that one was a little tough to open. This annoys me. That should stay inside there without having to touch it. Pops it open, and then you've got to pop it down. So, guys, when you're doing this, a little stick gum or something, and let it stick there towards the bottom, please. Ooh. Alrighty, so we're going to do a little bit of the blue. And that does look very nice on the paper. And I'll do close-ups as we get into it. And then the Tomoe River. And we'll do 2 passes on each one on the top and on the bottom. So if you're laying down something a little bit thicker, it'll give us a comparison between the two. Okay. So that's the, I should probably write down what it is and go that route. So I'll be right back. 1 second, everybody. All right, so this is the Dominant Industry Dominant Blue. So just kind of going to abbreviate it. And then this is just going to be the Dominant Industries Dominant Blue. And definitely already on the Takasago paper, I can see definitely a lot more sheen coming in from just the paper itself as it dries out. So I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but you can definitely see the sheen starting to come in a little bit there versus the Tomoe River. But it's definitely coming into there, so we'll have to kind of give it some time to dry up, and then I'll do a little bit of a close-up as soon as everything dries up afterwards. The next one is the Pearl series, and this is called Natural Green, and you can see here that it's got some nice shimmer, so we'll give that a shake. Get that all mixed up. Needs a little bit more shaking. Right. Okay, take the little cap off, drop it in, and let's lay down some ink. So this is definitely a little bit more of a lighter green. And a second swap at the top to give us a little bit of look at, you know, what it would be for a broad or a wet nib. So we'll kind of go that route. And we'll let that settle down a little bit and see how that looks. And again, this was the Dominant Industries Natural, green. This is laying down. So between just the writing sample alone, the Tomoe River paper definitely took a little bit less. It didn't take as much of the brunt of the green as this one did over here as the first lay down of ink onto it. Close that up. Next we'll look at another Pearl series, and this is the Milky Way Blue. Same thing, it's got a little bit of pearls at the bottom, shimmer, and we'll give that a good shake. And we'll see what's going on there. And this will be nice. It's a nice darker, thicker pool of ink. So we'll see how that stacks up. And let me go through the normal process of taking the little white tab off. You can kind of see what the color looks like a little bit there. Up, and then that's what I was afraid of. Dropping it backwards. All right, we're going to come back to this a little bit later because that just needs to be fixed. All right, so we'll give this another double swatch. Nice blue. And we'll see what that ends up drying up as. And then same thing with the Tomoe River 52 GSM. We'll do a double swatch onto that for a little bit more of a dry wet comparative and see what that looks like, and come back to it. Put that on back to it that way, and we'll see what's up. Oops. Oh well, you guys know it's Milky Way. I'm not going to open this up and deal with the little cap again. So this one is the Milky Way Blue. Awesome. And again, these are some of the Dominant industry inks, so hopefully they will hold up with the paper designed potentially by the same company. Let's try some non-Dominant industry ink. So this one is Tears of Sapphire by Ferris Wheel Press. And we'll take a peek as to how that looks on this paper as well. I will talk about why I don't like these bottles here in another review, because they are quite annoying for larger nib pens, and everything nowadays is going to an 8 size 8 nib, right? So it's like so this is the Ferris Wheel Press, and this is the Tears of, and then this is the Sapphire model here, and we'll let that dry up and see what that looks like, and then we'll put it onto the Tomoe River as well. I'll probably shake this up a little bit more and go that route. So this gives it a different feel. I think gives it more of like a petrol color versus, you know, what we're seeing over here on this side. But we'll let it dry up and we'll let it see what's going on with it. Okay. And then I'm going all out of order, guys. I apologize. I haven't done a video with multiple things like this, so it's a little bit different. So this is Tears of Sapphire, and there we go. Excuse me. So we've got that going on there. And we'll put that back in the box later. And then the last one we're going to do is the Lapis Lullabies. And this is a fairly new ink from Ferris Wheel Press. We'll give that a shake. And we will lay down a spot on each side. This is a fairly dry ink in my opinion. I mean, you can see just by laying it down, I had to go back in and get a separate dip onto that. So try it on the Tomoe River, see how that does. And this is a lot smoother. I can feel the smoothness on this versus the Dominant Industry paper as well. So put those away, and we will give this a name. And then this is the Ferris Wheel Press Lapis Lullabies. And then again, Ferris Wheel Press Lapis Lullabies. Okay, and we're going to let these dry up here and then come back. So I'll see you guys in a second. And I think we're back with the dry time. So this side is the Takasago Fountain Pen designed paper, and this side is the Galen Leather Everyday Notepad with a Tomoe River, original Tomoe River 52 GSM. This is 87.9 GSM paper. And again, a little bit of a comparative, just to recap. The top three inks here are Dominant Industry inks, and this is the Dominant Industry notebook. And then the bottom two here are Ferris Wheel Press inks with shimmer, sheen, and low shading kind of scenario. So if we look at the Dominant Industry blue or Dominant blue, you can see there's definitely, I'm not sure if we can come across on the camera, but there's definitely some nice sheen. There is feathering here on the U a little bit, and you can definitely see a lot of the sheen in there, but it's not as vibrant as when you look at it on the Tomoe River paper. As I'm looking to it, you can see the lettering itself has a nice sheen to it as well, and so is the paper, and it does pop out a little bit more in it. The natural green, you can see all the shimmer because it's a Pearl series. It lays down nicely. It's still drying a little bit here, but this was a heavy droplet from the first drying on the glass dip pen, and then of course the green just becomes a little bit darker. You can see a little bit of shading there. On the Tomoe River paper, you can definitely see the shading, the shimmer. Not so much, but maybe I didn't apply enough, but it's definitely there, and you can see a lot of the shading associated with it. And I'm going to attribute this being nicer looking just because I was using the dip pen and it probably had, run the heavy glob of ink down. And since I have this up, the Tomoe River paper, this is the Milky Way blue Dominant Industry. It's very, I think, pretty much Dominant blue and Milky Way blue look pretty much identical in that scenario. So I'm not sure, they needed another blue. Not 100% sure, but I think they look pretty much identical in regards to, and you can definitely see a lot of the sheen. At least on Tomoe River paper, they look identical, and the shading associated with that one. And then on the Takasago paper, you can see same thing. It looks very similar to the Dominant blue, so the Milky Way blue and the Pearl series. The other one, the Dominant blue, is standard, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, So it's supposed to be a standard. So there's not supposed to be a whole lot of sheen associated with it, but there is in it. And you can definitely see a little bit of the flex of the Pearl series into there. Uh, this one, not so much in regards to like the green shimmer flex, the silver into there, but definitely nice. And then the Ferris wheel press, Tears of Sapphire, definitely looks very nice in here. You can see the red sheen, you can see the shimmer, even the lettering has nice pop to it, the F and the W and the P. And as you move it around in the camera, you can see all the shimmer associated with that. And then same thing, I think the Tomoe River pops with the sheen a little bit more. You can see that in the word tears there associated with it. So very nice. And then the last one is a Ferris wheel press Lapis Lullabies, a little bit darker. And again, I think very similar between the two. This one's got a little bit different, darker petrol feel. And again, same thing. You can see a little bit of sheen around there. Not as vibrant as the Tears of Sapphire, but definitely there. And then the same thing with the writing. This was a heavier laydown because of the first writing. It's still kind of drying right there. But you definitely get the shimmer into there because it's a Pearl series. And then the Tomoe River, you can definitely get like more of the petrol feel, and you can definitely see the sheen and the shading associated with it. And in the actual writing sample, a little bit lighter, so you don't get as much of that sheen as you do in the Tears of Sapphire kind of scenario. So overall, I think it did very well. Between the two, I mean, if I'm just looking at it, I would probably still stick with the Tomoe River, but this is not bad. Uh, Even with its own inks, I think the Tomoe River paper did a little bit better job. We can flip the two if maybe there's some lighting issues, but I think that they still did the same between the two. This did a little bit better, but definitely friendly. And on the back side, you don't get a whole lot of bleed through, a little bit there. But again, I'm attributing that to the heavy drop of ink. But again, for being thicker paper, right? The 87.9 GSM, not bad. And then the Tomoe River paper, laid down heavy, thick gobs, but it did obviously have some bleed through down here, etc. So again, normal writing, you're not going to see too much down here. You can see it didn't really come through, but it's really the double areas where I laid down the ink a little bit thicker between the two to get it. So that's the difference. That's the paper. So on this side, you've got the Takasago Fountain Notebook paper. Again, you get it in grid, clear, and ruled in A5 size. And this is just a quick little comparison against the Tomoe River. So thanks again, everybody. Hopefully you liked it. And if you did, please like and subscribe. Thanks a lot. Bye.